break it all down. Why did they raid the homes to begin with? Obviously, they had a lot of information and probably were planning this for quite some time.
I believe they were, Christina. I think this all started with that lawsuit that we talked about in November when Cassie sued Diddy. And at the time, you and I talked about how incredibly foolish it was for Diddy not to settle the case before the allegations became public. And he settled it the very next day. And apparently the parties were about $10 million apart. But Cassie was with Diddy for a decade, and she knew where the bodies were buried, and she spilled it all out. And that encouraged other victims to come forward. And there was lawsuit after lawsuit alleging that Diddy and others had engaged in sex trafficking. So now it's gone from a civil lawsuit, which is about money, to a full-blown criminal investigation, and a very serious one that's based out of the Southern District of New York, probably the most prestigious prosecutor's office in the country. And federal agents executed 2 search warrants, one in Miami and one a mile away from where I live here in Los Angeles, with a lot of armed federal agents who went into the home, and they're looking for evidence of criminal activity, primarily sex trafficking, like you talked about, Christina, but other crimes as well. Add gun and firearms charges, and we're talking about someone who may spend decades in federal prison, like R. Kelly. And this is why, under federal law, if someone is convicted of even one count of sex trafficking, it carries a minimum 10 or 15-year prison sentence minimum. The judge can't go any lower for each count, depending on the age of the victim.
So there is a potential that Diddy could spend the rest of his life in prison.
Oh, very real possibility. I wouldn't be surprised if this is another Jeffrey Epstein or an R. Kelly type case where we're talking about multiple victims across multiple jurisdictions over a significant period of time. And again, these are just allegations. Nothing's been proven yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if Diddy is arrested in the coming days or weeks, and he's going to have to face these charges. And there's no possible plea that is going to get him off with a slap on the wrist or probation. If prosecutors are successful and able to prove it, he may end up dying in prison.